Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. All right, welcome to episode 166 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Today, my guest will be Master Carlos Machado, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But before we do, let's start with our quote. And that is, Jiu-Jitsu does not depend on the sun or rain outside or how we feel inside. If you do it, when you do it, despite all the circumstances inside and out, you will feel better and you will be better. And that quote is from Master Carlos Machado. Very excited to have him on the show today. If you missed his earlier episode on episode 80, I urge you to check that out as well. And that one we got a lot more into kind of the old times in history and when he came to the States and got started and things like that. Today we get into his mission and what's going on in his life right now, creating balance and recharging, his recent 60th birthday celebration, and what it means to him to be getting older. What was it like back in the day in Brazil with his cousins and brothers, Grandmasters Elio and Carlos, and how their personalities helped to shape Jiu-Jitsu. We talk about the goal of each belt level and the perspective and what people should be focusing on at each level. What does sound mechanics mean to him? The biggest lesson Jiu-Jitsu has taught him, and who's been the biggest inspirations in his life, as well as what he wants his legacy to be. So I know you're going to enjoy this great interview. After the interview, make sure you stick around for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. And now, without further ado, let's talk to Master Carlos. All right, I'm speaking with Master Carlos Machado. Welcome to the show, sir.
My pleasure, Marty. Long time dude.
Yes, I guess I should say welcome back. You actually were here probably 5 or 6 years ago for episode 80. So if anybody's listening and hasn't had the pleasure to hear that one, go ahead and check that conversation out. It was a great one as well. But
thank you.
Great to be talking to you again, sir. Let's just start by what's going on in your life right now.
Doing the same thing. I teach, doing my projects, trying to balance the act between life, business, personal, exercise, training, the whole 9 yard. So everybody tries to kind of divide your time into your hobbies, your career, your profession, kids growing up and everything. But I have a sense of mission, So for me, Jiu-Jitsu, and I was talking to my students a while back, because the association that I run has been a major mission because, as you expand beyond the walls of your academy, my idea was, how can I replicate my mission by inspiring other instructors and being a mentor to many of them so they can do the same thing. It's kind of like a pay forward kind of attitude in the sense that Jiu-Jitsu has been so instrumental in my life that I feel anybody who does it and experiences it is going to have a tremendous addition, to their lifestyle. But with that said, you always have that fine line in which being successful in one thing may cause you to juggle or be less successful on another aspect of your life. For instance, if you spend, I kind of had a period of time in which I was doing a lot of more business, which I still is mounting as we speak, towards mentoring other instructors and getting a staff right now that's very solid, and we're fine tuning everything and learning from our mistakes and expanding. But it's easy to turn your back to the ones who started with you first. For instance, my students from my own academy. So I need that battery charge. And I'm not sure if you recall, maybe when you came here for my birthday party, I'm not sure if I mentioned that when I step on the mats of my academy, that's that first love kind of feel. You know what I'm saying? That's the one that put me there to start with, and the one that I get the most energy back from. And so it's literally it's a continuous recharge, you
Mm.
know, and that catapults me to be more energetic and enthusiastic about everything else that I do. So in the training, you know, as you know, it's like wine. The longer you do, the more you should be refined. So my motto, train smart, stay humble. It's a derivation, is a spin-off of leave your ego at the door, you know,
Yes,
because
yes,
what happens is jiu-jitsu is about longevity, you know, and training smart is very critical. And whether you're a competitor or a hobbyist or somebody who just uses it, jujitsu as a lifestyle, you know, you have to have that perspective, and it becomes way more appealing, I think, than just doing without the direction. But
yes.
I write curriculums. I work with training methodologies. I have books that I'm in the process of writing, finishing up, and I do video production. I have my own film studio.
Wow.
So so we have some digital media coming up in the near future. And we do have a vast platform with thousands of hours of videos that I provide for the members of our affiliation. That keeps me busy, you know. And then going to the gym and working out on the side just to keep my body, you know, with less, you know, with functional, with less pain, less soreness. You know,
Yes,
you
very
got you
important.
get. It's kind of like vampire's blood. You know, once you if you choose this lifestyle, you're gonna have to keep your discipline uh, for eternity. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like once you have blood, if you're a vampire, you're gonna always need it. If you do jujitsu, you know there's a way to prolong your longevity if you do it right. But
Yes.
yeah,
Eh,
seminars here and there. I had some commitments, you know, for seminars at affiliates and non-affiliate schools. We have mastermind events that we do. We have instructors meetings that we do in affiliate training camps a couple of times a year. Usually it's the second weekend of April and October, and we give guest passes to outsiders as well. Because there's a communion of our jiu-jitsu family, but there's also sharing with our community. So we kind of try to tackle both aspects of that.
Very
You know,
nice.
we can be more specific about other things as you dig more. You know, I don't
Absolutely.
want to.
Well, it
Yeah,
sounds like you've got a lot going on for sure, keeping you busy and keeping you growing. You mentioned your 60th birthday. I want to talk about that for a minute because
sure,
I was fortunate to be in the Dallas area. My brother and I did a guys' weekend for you guys listening, and everybody needs to do that every once in a while, just get away. So we got away and did
sure.
various things. We went skydiving for the first time and other things. So
Wow.
yeah, I've been wanting to do that for years. But I was fortunate because you were having your 60th birthday, so we attended, and what a great celebration. Your wife, Lindsay, did an amazing job putting it together. And why I was so honored to be there, Master Carlos, is to see the outpouring of love from not only your students and your community, but the videos that were shown of people that you've really impacted their lives. And you really have impacted a lot of lives. And it was great to be there during that celebration with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to see you. And by the way, it was great to meet your brother. You know,
Well, thank you.
he's a nice fella. You know, I'm glad you guys got to come. Yeah. Well, I have a thing like, and I'm not saying there's no claim right there. When I look back at every person that I met in my life, uh, there was a degree, I think, in which in the exchange there was positivity, and I felt the impact was positive on their lives, no matter what. Whether they had good memories, good experiences, some continued to stay with me, others were with me for a period of time and then they left. And of course, you have the family nucleus. We have very fond memories. But as you grow older, we grow out of our circle and we have to, expand our horizons. It's kind of like the hero's journey of some sort. You
Yes.
leave your hometown and then you go into the world. You're going to, have to go through the challenges, slay the dragons, go into the cave and, get the treasure. I'm not done with I didn't go to the end of the rainbow. I'm still feel very ambitious in the sense that the mission is a work in progress. And that's how I look at jujitsu. Jujitsu is a work in progress, never a job done. It's really an amazing art in all aspects in terms of building relationships. And you can attest that many great relationships that I see happening in my students' lives or those who I have mentored or trained, um, the best, most of them, their best relationships were formed within the academy.
Mm.
They got best friends, they got soulmates, they got business partners, they got all kind of different interactions, or if not nothing else, just solid friendships. You know, and I think that's one of the major amazing aspects of jiu-jitsu. Unites people. They can have all kind of different backgrounds, but they have a common love that's greater than any barriers that might be there.
That's such a beautiful thing because it does transcend so many different occupations, different walks of life, everything from a student to a housewife to an engineer, you name it, doctors,
Yeah.
lawyers, everybody's
Hmm.
welcome and everybody, like you said, leaves their ego at the door and forms an incredible bond. So it is a beautiful thing. Let me ask you this. I too turned 60 this year in September,
Hmm.
and I definitely don't let age define me, and I get the impression you don't either. But I gotta say, 60, that number was definitely was different for me. It was kind of rough psychologically. So how
Hmm.
did that hit you at all, or how are you dealing with 60, or did it not matter at all? Just curious.
All right. So let's say here, if whatever reference you use, for instance, are you doing less physical activities? You have less energy, or do you feel that your body is holding back? Do you feel your mind is getting foggy, or is there any, for instance, because age will creep upon all of us, okay? And since we are born, we're fighting against time. And when I say fighting, it's not that we're going against it; it's part of life. As you mature, you're going to be stronger in certain areas and not as strong on others. But I think the sustainability has to do with lifestyle and has to do with having inquisitive mindset. For instance, I follow Sean Baker. I'm an adept of the carnivore diet,
Mm-hmm.
which is very opposite to what I was raised when I used to do the Gracie diet, based upon my late uncle Carlos Gracie Sr.'s teachings. And it has given me a tremendous level of energy, less soreness in my body, less inflammation. I'm more alert. I use a lot of good fats, animal fat actually, and my markers have been steady. Nothing major. I do a lot of red light therapy, which is like a God sent device
Mm-hmm.
because people have different, I guess, questions or assumptions before they use something. I like to try things before I recommend.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a technique. I try to work it out, make sure I figure out all the elements, and give the best possible shot when I teach somebody that it was going to be effective throughout time. And we can talk about sound mechanics at a later time. It's a good concept there. But going back to the 60s, um, I think ironically, if you don't read more, if you don't exercise your brain more, if you don't spend time with yourself, kind of trying to recharge your battery, kind of like what you did with your brother coming for a guy's weekend, all those little things, what I feel are like nuggets. They're things like if you have a video game and then throughout the video game, the path, the Mario Bros, there's a little, little icon on the screen that if you hit it, you get some more points. You know what I'm saying? You
Yes.
gotta put some nuggets out
Yes.
there on your path. That, for instance, I take a lot more sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Usually in the afternoon when I have a break, I go outside in my patio, and I actually, if I need to work, I take my laptop. Right now, I'm working with using the blue blockers,
Mm-hmm.
the glasses that block blue lights, because we're always seeing devices, and
Yes.
it has improved my sleep so much. Because as a matter of fact, depending on what grade you get, you should not use during the day because it makes you sleepy. You know what I'm saying? And here I'm thinking people, they have a hard time sleeping because they have to take, sleep pills and this and that. What they don't realize, their brain are wired completely in a
True.
messy way because of all the stimuli of
Yes.
computers, cell phones, and stuff. So something so simple like that, and I came across that not long ago. But you really have to have the inquisitive spirit. I think that's the key for longevity on the mind, on the mindset. Like when you say you're 60,
Yeah.
and if you feel like, man, it hit me, you got to increase your curiosity. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And the other thing, too, I feel is awareness, being the present, being the moment. Like for instance, when we had the birthday, I was in the moment right there. And throughout the day, it's very easy for you to be carried away for all the things that come your way. But be in the moment, man. I was with my wife yesterday having breakfast. And if you have an iPhone, for instance, I guess Android would do the same. I was just scrolling the calendar on the iPhone. And we are in 2023, towards the end of it, right? So the calendar, if you keep scrolling down, it doesn't have an end. It doesn't have an end. I scrolled down 1,000 years.
Wow.
I was on 3,023. I stopped right there. I want to, and it doesn't take that much. You just got to keep, scrolling down with your finger, just rubbing the screen,
Right.
and it goes fast. And when you realize, 1,000 years from now, right? So we're here. So, and I told my wife, look at this. This calendar, I just stopped here, but it goes forever, right? Where would we be 1,000 years from now, right? And so it gives you perspective that a lot of times we make much a bigger deal on certain things than what
Yes.
it should be. And then when you have a millennia in perspective, you know what I'm saying? Look right now, are we talking about 1,000 years ago, whatever character of history that had a little headache or got in an argument with the wife and was pissed off for a week or this and that? Those things, they just fall through like dust.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Agree.
What really matters is what kind of legacy
Right.
is built that you leave behind, and see how far out you can stretch that legacy to the other generations. When you look at jiu-jitsu in perspective, we will never forget Carlos and Helio Gracie.
Right.
Never. No matter who they are, no matter if 1,000 years pass, and people talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even if they change the name of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, you're going to have a time in history that there were individuals that were there at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. You
Yes.
have to have those conditions there. And I don't think things happen by accident. You know what I'm saying?
Agree.
How would jiu-jitsu be perceived? And I'm kind of changing a bit on the tangent here. How would jiu-jitsu be perceived if Carlos and Helio Gracie were super athletes? 250 pounders, muscle guys, and it's just kind of like scary looking and intimidating. Would they be as if Royce Gracie was, 260 pounds when he first fought in the UFC? So what happened there? The first generation of the Gracie family, they were very well fit, but they were small framed, or they were not, robust physically. They were,
Right.
lightweight. It took a generation for a guy like Carlson, late Master Carlson Gracie, or a guy like Rickson Gracie, to get the 200-pounder and up, because the first generations, that's how they were,
Yep.
and so you put a martial art right there on somebody like that, and then say, okay, prove it to everybody if this is effective or not. You know what I'm saying? That's mind
Totally.
boggling. You know what I'm
Totally.
saying? So, because it's easier for us to make have an opinion today, but when you have somebody that has no no technology, no training partners, nothing, zero. You know, it's true that jiu-jitsu was not as known, but despite the fact they had to navigate waters that were never charted
That's right.
before. See, and here we are now benefiting from it. Now, what can we do to make this even further? You know, how can we refine the techniques, refine the teachings? And the other thing, too, being an instructor, you know, one thing that a lot of times, I guess, depending on your level of maturity, you think that it's the here now. No, it's the here for eternity. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? You do it right. The grandkids of your students are going to inherit that. You see what I'm
yes.
saying? It's life
Yes.
changing. So we shouldn't take that for granted.
Totally
You
agree
know.
with that. And I definitely want to get into some stuff about Grandmasters Carlos and Elio in just a moment, but I don't want to leave
Sure.
the aging yet. I've heard it said that our life is kind of like just a parenthesis in time. When you were talking about the years and years and years and millennia, if you really look, our life is just a parenthesis, just a small thing. So why
Uh-huh.
get caught up in all the minutia and problems and irritations when if you really look at the grand scheme of things of just your life. But
Hmm.
I, like you, I'm very, very dedicated to aging the best I can, and I get inspired by when I see older people aging well and staying vibrant and having vitality. That's what inspires me, and I want to be one of those people that inspire other people too. So I don't let age define me. I do a lot of things for my health and
Hmm.
wellness. But yeah, I did want to just mention that the 60 for some reason psychologically did affect me, but I don't let it affect me day to day. It was like a hiccup, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not my age at all.
Hmm.
I am my vibrancy, my energy, and
Hmm.
that's what I do. But glad to hear some of the things you do, and it sounds like the perspective is a big part of you staying as
Yep.
youthful as possible, for sure.
Well, let me just kind of just add one thing real quick here.
Sure.
It never hit me that I'm 60. Never hit me. I never stopped to think about it because
That's
I
great.
always think like today I'm 60 plus 2 weeks older. You know,
Right.
next week I'm gonna be 60 plus 3 weeks older. And the thing here, there are two calendars. The conventional and the
Mm-hmm.
internal, and the internal. You know, so and some people say that time is an illusion because some people age faster than others,
Sure.
regardless of time. You know, if they don't take care of themselves, if they don't have the lifestyle or whatever. But anyhow, what was the
Well,
direction you're going?
I wanted to ask you a couple things. First
Yeah.
of all, let's just revisit a little bit way back in the day when you were in Brazil, growing up there
Hmm.
with your
Sure.
cousins and your brothers. What was it like then? What were some of the training like? And I think you did a lot of like outdoors training and probably had some pretty hard matches. So just tell us a little bit about what that time was like in training with those guys.
Okay, so let's say with my peers of my age, my cousins were my age, and then my brothers, well, kind of like next to each other. It was a positive sibling rivalry in which not that we're rivals to each other. We gave each other the best we could whenever we practiced together. We always brainstorming, trying to find answers. Had our I guess jujitsu round table on the mat. We just kind of would brainstorm and do drills and everything. But the sibling rivalry, the aspect of it is we wouldn't slack on not attending class, not showing up, because we knew if our brothers or cousins were going and we were slacking, we would pay a price for it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu was not as popular or as popularized. It was popular amongst those who did it, but it was not as popularized as it became after the early 90s with the first UFC and my cousins, the first Gracies migrating to the United States, and my brothers and I, the Machados, following shortly after. We didn't hit a world platform. It took a little bit of time, but it was kind of like a revolution at a point in time, you know, and eventually became mainstream all the way. But how he was training with them. And we had the mentorship of the elders, like Carlos Gracie Sr. was kind of like a guru. He always give you sound advice from a spiritual and life lessons perspective. Uncle Helio was very strong on the warrior's mentality. He would give you a lot of self confidence, a lot of the, he was a master of the mechanics, but he had a lot of mental might, mental power. You know what I'm saying? So you could be scared to death, and he would say, "Go ahead and jump off that cliff." You would go without even, questioning. He had that kind of degree of influence. So the symbiotic relationship between the two elders, I think, was a magic thing to see because one would be the one the executioner. He would be on the mat and just face all the enemies and climb all the mountains. The other one was behind, orchestrating a little bit with the Gracie diet lifestyle, with the mentorship, with the spiritual connection and counseling. So it was literally, I don't know, it's like a Star Wars, the Jedi and the Yoda. Like I saw my uncles kind of like that. Holmes Gracie was, the first. I was old enough. I guess I was 16 when he passed, but until then, I was, mature enough to watching all, his prowess, his being a prodigy. He was like 165 pounds, but he was a black belt in judo. He was a boxer. He was a wrestler. He started to go compete wrestling, sambo wrestling. He was like expanding the horizons. He was breaking the barriers. Hickson was like the samurai, And Hickson, you have pictures of him when he was younger. He had the long hair at a point in time. He literally looked like a Japanese samurai. If he had a sword on his hand,
Yeah.
you could not tell.
Yes.
And he had the discipline. Hickson was very focused. Like we would go hang out on the beach. We never saw Hickson sitting in the same place. He would walk like 8 miles. Go walk back and forth while everybody was just hanging out and stuff. He was taking it way more seriously the training back then because he knew the kind of responsibility who was looming upon his shoulders as he was growing of age to kind of carry on. And then you have all the other greats like late master Carlson Gracie, who was for competition. I've never seen somebody so well versed to coach a competitor. He could make any average person fight above the average. You know what I'm saying? And he had his, because I was a student of his at a point in time when I was much younger before I went to Halls and then to Carlos Gracie Jr. and then eventually migrated to the United States. But each of them had very powerful qualities that explained to me why jiu-jitsu was able to reach the level it did. It was not just the skill; it was the personality of those involved. Okay, and it was a very supportive group of people. We were all always there for each other. And if you felt very safe, not for the physicality in terms of what they could do physically, with the martial arts that they had, but you knew that you had so many of them on your corner at any given time that, man, I mean, I have everybody watching my back here.
Right.
Nothing can go wrong. You know, and so it was great. I mean, we had a lot of instances when I remember when I was younger. We had Christmas, uh, uh, I guess lunch or dinner at Manor's house, the mansion that I'm not sure if you recall at the Gracie Museum.
Oh yes.
The house with 18 bedrooms.
Yes.
Uh, their dining room had a table that could sit, I think, 50 people. Actually, it was like literally, if you put one person in one corner and another person in another corner, you could not hear them. That's how far it was. You know what I'm saying? And
That's
everybody else
crazy.
sitting between. You know, they have a massive operation there. Several, workers. The maid, the cook, and everything
Huge
else.
staff.
It was so between the children from Helio and Carlos. You put 10 on one side, 21 on the other, 31. You had all the Machados, 536, and then all the aggregates and stuff. 50 was not, if you include all the adults. I probably sat more than that actually. So to have that experience, I was like, man, and we're little kids, and then we're growing up. You like your instructor is your hero. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
he's giving you the advice. It's just like it was amazing.
it sounds amazing.
For that sense. I lived when I went to college for at least I would say almost 3 years. I lived in the house of late master Grandmaster Carlos Gracie Sr., my uncle, and I got to spend a lot of time talking to him about things off the mat, just life lessons and
Yeah.
stuff. And he was a very deep person. Very very wise man.
I've heard that a lot of times from various people,
Yeah.
and what an incredible, opportunity for you to be able to grow up in that environment with so many great people and just kind of live it every day and just be immersed in it. I like how you said what made things really kind of unique and distinctive for jiu-jitsu is the personalities, because everybody knew
Mm-hmm.
jiu-jitsu, right? But these various people
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, these greats, all had different
Yep.
personalities, which really
Yep.
shaped not only you but jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go back a little bit, talk about Grandmasters Elio and Carlos. It's not uncommon, and I really hate this, but it's not uncommon for the jiu-jitsu community as a whole to sometimes be divisive rather, between those two. And I like hearing you describe their relationship and how they kind of complemented each other. But can you tell us how you feel they both built such great teams with such different personalities? Was that because
Mm-hmm.
they were symbiotic, or was it for something else?
All right. So when you say teams, okay,
I
one
guess.
thing is like the let's say this Carlos Senior was 10 years older than Grandmaster Helio. They had an age gap right there.
Mm-hmm.
Helio was the youngest, and Carlos was the eldest, right? So uh, in their upbringing, as Carlos, interacted Maeda Koma, the Japanese master, and then Helio came into the picture and started to follow the same path. Carlos Gracie had an epiphany. He told me about that. He said, "Man, I cannot be sick. I cannot get sick." Because his concern was, I'm trying to spread jujitsu out there. They had the Gracie Challenge way back then. Like Uncle Carlos, you probably have heard the story that when he was, I'm not sure if he was in São Paulo already, because he migrated from his hometown in the state of Pará, which is a northeastern part of Brazil, where the rainforest, you know, is located. So he put one time an ad on the paper. In newspapers back then, it's like I don't even know how popular radio was at the time. You got to understand, this was like in the 1900s. Between I guess First and Second World War in the 30s, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyhow, um, he he said, whoever wants to have a broken arm or get choked out, show up at this place at this time or any time. So it was not uncommon that he would be having breakfast or a meal, and then somebody would, yell from, down below and say, "Hey, are you the place that this and that?" So he had some occasional visitors who wanted to check him out. He was like, "You know what? I cannot be sick because what if somebody challenges me?" Literally, this came out of his mouth. Somebody challenges me, and I don't feel good, and that's what precipitated him to become a dietitian, a healer, an herbologist. So he embarked on until he developed the Gracie diet, and he passed that on to all his siblings and the generations that came. And it became an amazing, I guess, lifestyle asset for everyone because we're always raised to eat healthy, eat clean, eat fresh, and so. But what I'm trying to say, that aspect of Uncle Carlos' decision to become a healer, although he was still training and being a training partner for Helio Gracie and stuff, he became more directed towards developing that. So he would do jiu-jitsu. He had his fights. He had his academies. They had a major academy in the downtown Rio at a point in time. Very exclusive clientele, private classes. they taught government officials, and the elite of Brazil were students of my uncles. But Helio became the one that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and stay on the mat and just go all out and develop this thing. And although they worked in conjunction, one became more focused on one aspect and the other one on another. Okay. But they were both entangled. They wouldn't leave each other. Uncle Carlos was the manager. He was the guy that prepped Uncle Helio. He was the guy that would advise Uncle Helio. And it was literally, man, it was unbelievable how tight they were for the longest time. So they didn't have any, I think, from what I could understand, grievances on, I do this, you do that, so I'm the one responsible. It just naturally took place. It was not a, it was a spontaneous thing. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
But I can tell jiu-jitsu wouldn't exist if one of them was missing. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't, for us here today. So, anyhow, now, of course, as the clan gets bigger, and if you read Malcolm Gladwell Outlier, which is, I love that book.
Yes.
There was something that kind of like hit me when you have any group, and they had this, I guess, this research that they did on a tribe that once they grew above 150, the shaman, the leader of the tribe, they couldn't communicate all as often with that person because there was too many of them, and then they would kind of groom another leader to go and start another village somewhere else up to 150, and then they would offspring, and instead of being too big that people would start to quarrel, and wouldn't be a central wise man to mitigate the differences. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
yes.
It's normal when you have a clan. It's the largest family. I think it's on the Guinness. If it's not there, it should be the largest martial arts family in recorded human history. The Gracie clan.
Yes, for sure.
And the clan expands and grows and stuff. So it's impossible that there wouldn't be some differences or some grievances here and there that can happen, But that's one thing about my cousins. I love them all. I may agree or disagree with some of them on certain things, and they can fight each other. But God knows what's going to happen if some outsider pokes at one of them.
Right.
They're going to all turn to, I can fight this guy, but you don't mess with my clan here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's a very united clan in that regard. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I think that they caused such a revolution worldwide.
Yes, for sure.
On the planet. On a planetary scale. And of course, it's not, for instance, for me, questionable or wrong that each of them, including my brothers and I, that we grow our own niche and our own group, and you start to further our path towards whatever direction our path leads to fulfill the mission that started with those two elders who are amazing individuals, amazing humans.
Totally agree. I totally agree with what you said about, anytime there's a group and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, at some point there's going to be, some differences and probably breaking off to other groups, things like that, whether it's by intention or whether it just happens and evolves to that, that's going to happen. And a family that size, it's not always going to be, 100% harmonious, but you made a great point. It's one thing for them to have a little bit of inner conflict with any family, but to the outsiders, oh no, that's when they band together and say, it's us against the world, so back off. It's great.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to comment on, what I heard you say about both the Grandmasters. It couldn't have been one or the other. It really took both of them together and their unique individual differences and perspectives and strengths and what they brought to really shape that evolution of jiu-jitsu. So that's really cool. Very cool. Excellent. Well, thank you for taking us back and talking about that a bit. Let's change gears a little bit, Master Carlos. I want to do a little quick thing. I want to get your perspective on, if I take you through each belt level, and we'll start with white belt. I want to just give me like a 1 minute perspective on what each belt level means in your opinion and what one should be focused on at that level. So we'll just start with white belt.
Sure. Okay. So white belt. I compare to you don't know how to swim. The mat is like a pool. I throw you in the pool. The first thing, don't drown. Don't drown. Your number one goal for a white belt is survival.
Mm.
You know, don't drown. Okay, so that's my belief that you should be equipped to deal with pressure and to be comfortable in uncomfortable positions. That's just the main priority right there. White belt doesn't have the experience or vision which way to go. It's very immediate. Their lack of experience and knowledge put them in a predicament more often than not. So if I'm miserable, how can I stay comfortable in the midst of misery? So misery doesn't seem so miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it kind of sounds redundant, but that's what builds resilience for the
Yes.
later belts that will ensue afterwards.
Excellent. Excellent.
So that's my first point. Now, in regards to blue, is about uh, learning how to control. Okay, it's not about if you can tap somebody. It's about you gain a position and you keep a position. You know what I'm saying? So blue belts already kind of know that they how not to drown. They are comfortable in bad positions. Now let's talk about when you get a good position, keep it. You know what I'm saying? You should not rush. You have to develop patience. See what I'm saying? So that way, you make use of the opportunities that come and don't mess up because you are trying to go faster than you should. You know, speed. There's degrees of speed. Okay, you cannot have speed without having precision first. Okay, and I think the part that makes a blue belt distinguishable than a white belt. A blue belt will rush less,
Mm.
you know, and will try to capitalize on every advantage that he or she can get. Okay. Now, when you go to purple, purple is kind of like a change on your perspective. Like, let's say you see things, but now I have a lens that I can see a little deeper. Okay. So that's when you start to pay more attention to the small details. Okay, so it's not just about so the game becomes a game of inches. So a blue belt slows down a bit. It's not spastic. It preserves their good positions. You know, it can maintain control longer. It can survive from the upbringing from white belt level. So when you're a purple belt now, your horizon expands because you see, oh, now I see how I'm gonna get that guy. It's not just sharpening a bit the technique, but being more capable of using the techniques in conjunction. So you can use a technique to bait another, or you can use a technique to succeed another. Okay, so it's kind of like a how do I put? I call here the Central Park comparison. Okay, that's what a purple belt is. Uh, you have the guy in New York that has the three cups with the fur ball in the middle,
Yeah.
and you bet your money, and he moves the cups around, and you almost swear that you're gonna
Yes.
be on
Yes.
the left, on the right, or in the middle,
Right.
and you barely you almost never make it right because they sometimes don't even move the cup. They make you believe. So that's the thing about a purple belt. They can deceive. They can bait. They can feint. They start to play the jiu-jitsu game as a chess player because now that they pass through the drowning stage and they can maintain the positions a little better. Now let's make use of this, game here and confuse people so we can get where we want, and breach through their defense. A brown belt becomes more of a strategist. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, a lot of people say the difference between a purple belt and a black belt is not knowledge based, it's experience based. Because you see, if you put purple belts and black belts to go and practice with each other nowadays, it's not uncommon that the purple belt will be a very tremendous, training partner
Mm-hmm.
because they have enough season, enough game to withstand a black belt and give a black belt a good role. I would say every school, a purple belt will give a good run for a black belt, black belt's money. But what they don't have is the experience. If they become exposed or susceptible to some situations, they may not have yet all the answers. They might succumb when a black belt would actually overcome the issue. Okay, that's when the brown belt comes in and plays out strategy. You got to be a strategist. You got to know that if you get a guy that's tremendous, you're not going to try to beat the guy in the beginning. You're going to really work your game with the intent of wearing them out. You're going to start to read people and you see what kind of game they have. And I can give an example here. There are guys that have an okay guard, but a tremendous escape game. So you kind of get to their side and they escape. They don't let you consolidate, right? And you have other guys. So that's a brown belt right there. Okay, a purple belt might have a tremendous guard, but their escapes from the side may be neglected a little bit. They might spend more time on one than the other. A brown belt wouldn't do that. A brown belt will always back up the plan. If plan A fails, I already have a plan B. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And just and the idea of a brown belt for strategy is not about winning your opponent. It's about frustrating your opponent. The winning happens as the icing on the cake. You frustrate them first, you wear them out first, and eventually you overcome them. Okay? The black belt is an amalgamation of everything. You know what I'm saying? And a black belt will have the grit and the wit to go from minute one to the last minute. He can be wiped out from minute one to minute nine, and on the 10th, he comes out on top. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because he has experienced so much of the mat time, has been exposed to so many different aspects of jiu-jitsu that uh, he will make a lot more with very little. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
And black belts, they're how they call chameleons. Is
Yes.
that the one that chameleons? They can literally play different roles.
Mm.
I like some of my cousins. I think it was Hannah that said, "Be a thief, of jujitsu. If somebody rolls with you, steal their moves." I think it was
Right.
Hero
Right.
maybe that used that. Okay, so a black belt has that ability. He can steal your move and use it against you. He can close all the doors. I remember one time there was a passage with Hickson Gracie training with Fabio Gurgel, the great from Alliance. And I think they did one training in one day, and Hickson was after he taught or whatever. That's the story that I heard. And Fabio was training with Hickson, and Hickson was, I guess, rolling and getting to know Fabio's game. And then Fabio felt, man, I'm doing great. I feel I'm doing better. Then next day came, and Hickson trained with him again. And Hickson had already mapped out all Fabio's game and gave Fabio a much worse time on the mat. And Fabio mentioned, man, I thought I was doing good with Hickson. And today he's figuring me out, and things are not the
Right.
same as I thought it was beforehand. It happened to me one time. I was teaching one of my black belts a while back, and I was doing a private with him. And, when you do privates, you let your student do the moves on you. They have to practice. If they get to a position of advantage, you're coaching your training partner against you to make sure that he gets the move right and this and that. And then on the evening, we're rolling. But when I'm rolling, I'm not giving him the same opportunities because I want to do something back against the person. I'm not working against me. I'm
Right.
working towards making sure that we can go back and forth. And then the whatever he was doing to me in the morning, he couldn't replicate and do in the evening. And then if I don't understand. I thought that I was doing well, that I was able to get you here and there. So well, it's okay. Tomorrow we're going to train again. I'm going to tell you what I did, and I'm going to show you what you should do, and that's how it goes. You know what I'm saying? But don't think for a second that it's a one-way deal. You grow, I grow.
Right.
We're growing parallel, and there'll be a point in time that the chess move might be switched to one side or the other. Um, But going back to the black belt, I think the other thing too is wisdom. You gotta get the mat wisdom. You know what I'm saying? And I think black belts, if they do right, they don't see jujitsu as a job done, like I mentioned earlier. It's always a work in progress. So that's why it keeps you humble. That you never cease to learn. And hopefully they're gonna keep the humility that they don't think they're too good to learn any further.
That's great. Thank you for that. It's
Yeah,
always
no,
interesting
no
to hear
problem.
the different perspectives. A lot of people share very similar, and then there are people that think about it a little bit differently. So I appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing yours. You mentioned earlier sound mechanics. Will you elaborate a little bit on that? What that
yeah.
means to you?
So it's funny because one thing about sound is sound echoes, right? So you haven't seen like a lot of times you have a thunder, you see the lightning before the sound comes, right? So the lightning is already gone, but the vibration reaches you
Mm.
afterwards. You see an airplane in the air, before you hear the jet engines rumbling, right? So the way I compare when I say sound mechanics, of course, sound mechanics means it's mechanically, you know, perfect, like in its primal state. Man, once you hit this mechanics, you should replicate through time, right? And sound mechanics, it echoes through time, meaning, and I give an analogy here. I was in Vegas a few years back. I had a booth, and I had this black belt coming to me, and he was a blue belt last time I saw him. He was a visitor when I used to teach in LA. And I did teach him a sweep game, maybe a scissor sweep or a hook flip. I don't even know exactly what the technique was specifically, but it was a sweep. And then he came to me, and like I said, it was probably like 12 years since I saw the guy last. How you doing, professor, whatever? And then he reminisced. Man, remember that time that I went to your school and I learned that move and this and that? I still use it and it still works.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So that kind of gives you the analogy there. That's what sound mechanics should be. Is like once if it's sound, it's gonna echo through time.
Mm.
And but like I said, of course, you always need to tweak the nuances. Your opponents, they learn about what you do. They become familiar with your game, but it doesn't change the fact that sound mechanics, once you hit, you're gonna likely replicate the results.
Nice. Nice. So let me ask you to finish this sentence for me. The biggest
Yep.
lesson jiu-jitsu has taught me is blank.
Oh, it's infinite.
Mm.
The more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Love it. Love it. It's a never-ending process
Hmm.
and path, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. Never a job done.
Yes.
Always a work in progress.
And that's part of the beauty of it is you don't just learn it and you're done. It's always there's always more to learn, different levels, different ways of seeing
Hmm.
it, different ways of practicing, and
Yep.
which is a great thing. All right, sir. With a little bit of time we have left, could you tell us some of the people that have inspired you in your life, either on and off the mat, either way, and also what do you want ultimately your legacy to be?
All right. So I think I can have people on my immediate circle of relationships. Like, of course, the uncles, Carlos Gracie Sr. in particular. He was like the impersonation of a guru in real life. If you have any problem, if you have any questions, if you have anything, that's the person I would go to. And he would always have an amazing feedback to give me. He one of the most generous men I ever met in my life. I don't remember recalling a human that had the degree of compassion and generosity that I saw in my uncle. Okay.
Wow.
My father, as a family man, a great provider, supportive of us. Every tournament, my mom didn't watch us compete, but my dad never missed any of our events. And one thing that he inspired me, that taught me well in regards to how I relate to my kids, is he was proud of me when I stepped on the mats, regardless of the results. Winning or losing, and I won the majority of my matches. He would always commend me and my brothers at the end. I'm proud of you. I'm just proud of you. Uh, and then I remember that we felt so much his support and his admiration. It's like nowadays when you see kids competing and dads, they kind of have a antagonistic behavior when they when they see their kid not performing to their expectations, and it's kind of like we didn't have that experience. Chuck Norris, about friends, true friendship. See, Chuck Norris, he was already very successful when we first met him. He didn't have to do any of the things that he did for us, me and my brothers, in the beginning of our time in the United States. So he helped us with our first academy. He was the reason I came to Texas, and he's been one of the greatest advocates of the Machado family uh, in America. And I don't think my brothers and I would have had the same experience and degree of success that we had if we uh, didn't meet somebody like Chuck at the time in our lives when nobody knew of us, but he did, and he believed in us when nobody knew of us. So it was a friendship that never changed. So I always say his best role in life is his real self.
Mm.
He's a true hero to my family and to many people out there that I've seen he do the same thing.
Wow.
Another guy, and I'll be sincere with you, and this kind of goes Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Okay, the reason I'm going to say Joe Rogan is you come across and see personalities that sometimes they change with times. They get influenced or pressed to change behavior, do things in a certain way.
Right.
And to see somebody who has had martial arts experience and had a path in which he became the greatest podcaster on the planet,
Right.
and he's so supportive of martial arts, so supportive of jiu-jitsu, and he also has an amazing influence in many other areas. I admire people like that. So he became an inspiration to me. When I start to think about, man, this guy gives everyone an opportunity to talk, and not only though he interviews, because I love listening to podcasts. He's the best interviewer.
Yeah, he really is
I mean,
good.
nobody. He'll do a 2 or 3 hour interview, and when you look at other people doing it, they lose their tempo or their momentum at a point in time, and it may get a little bit unappealing or
Right.
lackluster. Man, it doesn't happen with him. From the first minute to the last, he keep he keeps things interesting, and the information that he gives. When he brought Sean Baker, that's the reason I do the carnivore diet,
Right.
and all this stuff with the stem cells and everything.
Yes.
Anyhow, I'm not trying to overdo. I'm just saying he inspires me.
No, I
And
agree.
for me, in terms of the legacy, what I want to leave behind. Okay, now I want one more that I want to say that's a true hero for me is my brother
Mm.
Higan Machado, because Higan was the first Machado to come to the United States. And Higan, he is the reason we came to the United States. The main reason. I don't know if I would have ever made the change, or even if I did, of coming to the U.S. from Brazil, if Higan was not here already. You know, Higan opened the doors, the frontiers. He's an amazing martial artist and an amazing human and an inspiration to me, Brother Higgins. Hands down, a true, genuine, generous man. Amazing. Like when he competed back in the old days in Brazil in his training, he was like a prodigy. He was like it was mesmerizing to watch him compete. He was anytime he was called upon to compete, all the crowd would they would empty out all the areas where all the other matches were going, and they were gonna just flock because they knew something spectacular would happen. You wouldn't be a normal sweep. You would be a helicopter sweep. It was just very flamboyant and sound. And Higan, when he was purple belt, it was the first time I saw a purple belt line up all the black belts in the gym that we
Wow.
used to train back in Brazil. He was that prodigious. But
He would just tear
so
through people,
so
right?
yeah, so he's coming to spend Christmas with us. I'm very excited. He's teaching a seminar here on the 22nd of this month. And I'm just excited to share some time with him. And of course, all my brothers. But I wanted to finish with that. And then the legacy part. Okay. The legacy part is I want to make sure that whoever comes through my teaching or my jiu-jitsu family, that whenever they go, that their grandkids will learn those lessons or hear the stories of what happened to their granddads on the mat. I think 2 generations ahead. So I want to make sure that, and I've seen actually, not only at my school, I see students of mine who had kids that the kids are training and so on. But I've seen, like, for instance, in some of my black belts who have schools throughout the country and worldwide, they have had grandpas bringing their grandkids to train. This for me is the greatest vision. Oh my gosh, if we can do that, because I know what jiu-jitsu does. Once you're there, it gives a special power, you know, and so that's kind of like what I want to be remembered. And I want the grandkids to hear about how much fun the granddads had training with me.
Nice, nice. Very good. That's a great legacy to be aspiring to, and I have no doubt that you will reach that and are reaching that. Let me just comment quickly on a few of the people you said it really inspired you. Chuck Norris, and I know we spoke more in depth about your relationship with him last time, but there's so many things to admire about him. But one thing, just the open-mindedness he had to embrace jiu-jitsu when he was already such an accomplished martial artist. And so many people back in the day, I'm sure, were very closed off and said, well, my art's good enough, I don't need to learn all that. But he was pretty quick to embrace that. So that says a lot about him. The other,
Yep.
with Joe Rogan, what stands out as a positive for me is that he's, again, open-minded. He has a lot of different kind of guests on. I've been introduced to a lot of different subjects through the guests he has on, like you mentioned, carnivore. And he also isn't afraid to question things, which I really like. He's not just trying to stay safe and entertain. He really does question things. So I like that. And your brother Higan, I had a chance many years ago, probably about 8 years ago, to visit his school in person and do a private. And what a great person he is. And, as formidable he is in jiu-jitsu, he had such a gentle, easygoing energy. And I really thought that was awesome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and you mentioned the carnivore. A lot of people, when they hear that, are like, carnivore, that can't be healthy. It's all meat and all that. But, I've learned as I get on with years to question things as well. We're always taught stuff at one point in life, and then the more information you have, you evolve, right? And to me now, there's no one size fits all when it comes to diet and nutrition. Some people may be great, vegetarians. Some may be great with paleo, but carnivore works for a lot of people, and they've gotten the best, lab results they've had in their life by being on it. So I encourage people to be open-minded and kind of seek out what really works for you along those lines.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, sir. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. I know you have a lot going on. It's a pleasure to be at your celebration, your birthday party, and you have done so much to further jiu-jitsu and impact so many lives on and off the mat, not just as an incredible instructor and professor, but your philosophy and the way you've helped people grow as people. So my hat's off to you and much respect.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity, Marty. And I just want to close with this. There are many people out there who will listen to this podcast. And I want to make sure that if anybody needs to reach out to me, or if anybody doesn't have in their lives mentorship or somebody that can be on their corner, whether in jiu-jitsu, on and off the mats, check out machadomethod.com. Okay, that is a website that has all the resources of where we are, our locations, what I do, when I do events, where I'm going to be, or how to reach out to me. Okay, so just don't miss out the opportunity. Any of you out there, it's going to be an honor if I can continue the legacy and assist people, whether from my jiu-jitsu family or the Brazilian jiu-jitsu community at large.
Absolutely. Can you say the name one more time, sir? The website?
Yes, Machado Method.
Machado Method.
Dot
Okay.
com.
Great.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely put that in the show notes as well if anybody wants to just do a direct link.
Yeah.
Find out all that they offer and how you can benefit from it.
Sure. And if, of course, the social media at Carlos Machado Jiu-Jitsu for Instagram and my Carlos Machado fan page, we can always hook up a DM or any posts. I'm always welcome. We keep track of that.
Absolutely.
I guess that's it, Marty.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insight and letting us get to know a little bit more about you and your life. Much respect and long, healthy, happy life, sir.
You too, my friend.
All right.
Take care, okay?
Be well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Really enjoyed that conversation with Master Carlos. What an interesting and insightful person he is. Don't forget to listen to the other podcast he was on, episode 80, if you haven't heard that one as well. All right. Have you heard about New Hope Regeneration? New Hope Regeneration is a company that offers regenerative and stem cell therapies. I personally have had this therapy done and can attest to how incredible it is. One of the best things I've ever done for my health and longevity. So if you're not quite the person you were 10 years ago, or if you're suffering from any kind of physical degeneration or breakdown, go ahead and check out newhoperegeneration.com/Marty, and you'll be able to find out more information as well as schedule a free consult about your specific needs and goals. All right, this episode is brought to you by Breathing for BJJ. And Breathing for BJJ is a 31-day online video program that I spent 2 years in developing, and it's designed to transform your jiu-jitsu experience. You know, there's nothing more important than your breathing. It makes a profound difference in your jiu-jitsu experience. Optimizing your breathing takes your jiu-jitsu experience to a whole new level and has a huge impact on your performance. Learning to regulate your breathing can completely transform your jiu-jitsu experience. Being able to slow your breathing down when you need to, create energy when needed, breathe when in uncomfortable positions and situations, and to find the calm within the chaos are skills you need to master to create and achieve the optimal jiu-jitsu experience. This program uses a biomechanical approach to actually target and strengthen your specific breathing muscles, creating efficiency and effectiveness in your functional capacity to breathe. It's time to make breathing the foundation of your BJJ. And you can find out more at www.breathingforbjj.com. Next up is the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
There are a few things you just can't learn from a textbook. That you have to live through, to see, to be fully entrenched in. Because here is a simple truth. This world is a tough place. Getting what you want, making the most of the time you have requires that you put yourself in the position to succeed. It means you see a finish line before one exists. Look, no one's ever gonna call you and tell you how incredible your idea is. You can't build a business on potential or win a championship on promise. Results are binary. You either accomplished something or you simply did not. Right? That's it. That's what people see, the result. So that means every second, every step of the way from where you are right now until you cross the finish line depends on you and your thoughts. how you internalize failure, how you look at setbacks. When no one is around to pat you on the back or tell you how great you are, will you have enough self-belief to move forward? Because, my friends, that's the hardest part. That's what no one talks about. Having the courage to wake up every single day of your life and know that you are building towards something incredible. You are creating a masterpiece from the ground up. And that means that when you're looking in the mirror, you believe in what's staring back at you. You see the unseen and you are willing to bring it to life. That is the foundation that you build greatness on. And it's a daily pursuit, creating milestones, designing the small wins that keep you going, that keep you moving, that get you past all those times you so desperately want to turn around, but know that for you, it simply isn't an option. That is not your reality. You have more waiting for you. And so you press on, cloaked in confidence, you move into the unknown, seeking the day the rest of the world looks up and calls you lucky. They'll look at what you built and say how fortunate you are, but they won't comprehend the 20-hour days, the focus, the ridicule for being different or obsessive or nonconformist. They won't know that self-belief trumped all of that. That it was everything. The word great is separate for a reason. It implies a specific set of beliefs and values. It means you saw light when most people saw darkness. It means you said yes when most people said no. You moved forward when the rest of the world turned around. Believe in your greatness. See it. Live it. It is there, and you need to know that it's there. Because it will make all the difference. Your self-belief will define you.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. Hope you're enjoying the show. Please like and follow us on social media and help us spread the word by reposting our posts and telling others about the show. You can leave comments on the website at www.GJJR.com. You can also go to iTunes and leave comments as well as rate the show, and we would appreciate a 5-star rating, which helps us with our standing in iTunes. You can also leave comments on our YouTube channel. If you have suggestions for the show, please don't hesitate to give those. We always like feedback and suggestions. Okay, that's going to do it. So until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.